Hello everyone. Today I'm going to take a seminar on the topic Gitanjali. Gitanjali is a collection of poems written by Rabindranath Tagore. At first, I'm going to tell about the poet Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore was born in the year 1861 and died in the year 1941. He was a Bengali polymath who worked as a poet, writer, playwright, composer, philosopher, and social reformer. He reshaped Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art with contextual modernism of the late 19th and 20th centuries. Author of the profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful poetry of Gitanjali, he became the first non European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1930. Tagore's poetic songs were viewed as spiritual and mercurial. However, his elegant prose and magical poetry remain largely unknown outside Bengal. He was a fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society. He is known as the Bard of Bengal. Tagore modernized Bengali art by spurning rigid classical forms and resisting linguistic structures. His novels, stories, songs, dance dramas, and essays spoke to topics political and personal. Gitanjali. In English, it is said as song offerings. It is translated as song offerings. It was also written by Tagore. Tagore himself translated Gitanjali into English language. Okay. Gitanjali, Gora, Ghare Bhaire are his best known works, and his verse, short stories, and novels were acclaimed or panned for their lyricism, colloquialism, naturalism, and unnatural contemplation. His compositions were chosen by two nations as national anthems, India's Janaganamana and Bangladesh Amma Shona Bangla. The Sri Lankan national anthem was inspired by his work. Rabindranath Tagore was awarded knighthood for services to literature by King George V in 1915. However, Tagore renounced that title after the 1919 Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So Tagore renounced that title after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So now I'm going to discuss about Gitanjali. Gitanjali is a collection of poems by the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore received the Nobel Prize for Literature for this English translation Gitanjali, that is song offerings, making him the first non-European to receive this honor. It is a part of the UNESCO collection of representative works. Its central theme is devotion, and its motto is "I'm here to sing these songs." The original Bengali collection of 157 poems was published on August 14, 1910. The poems were based on medieval Indian lyrics of devotion with a common theme of love across most poems. Some poems also narrated a conflict between the desire for materialistic possessions and spiritual longing. The English version of Gitanjali is a collection of 103 English prose poems, which are Tagore's own English translations of his Bengali poems, and was first published in November 1912 by the India Society in London. It contained translations of 53 poems from the original Bengali Gitanjali as well as 50 other poems from his other works. The translations were often radical, leaving out or altering large chunks of the poem, and in one instance fusing two separate poems, is song 95, which unifies song 89 and 90 of Naivedya. The English Gitanjali became popular in the West and was widely translated. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the first poem of Gitanjali, poem number one. I will try to recite the poem. Thou hast made me endless, such is thy pleasure. This frail vessel thou emptiest again and again, and fillest it ever with fresh life. This little float of a reed thou hast carried over hills and dales, and hast breathed through it melodies eternally new. At the immortal touch of thy hands, my little heart loses its limits in joy and gives birth to utterance ineffable. Thy infinite gifts come to me only on these very small hands of mine. Ages pass, and still thou pourest, and still there is room to fill. So it's a very short poem. It is the first poem written by Tagore in the collections. Um, so now I'm going to give a summary of the poem. It is a very simple poem actually. It's very easy to understand at the first reading. Okay. God had made man imperishable and everlasting because it is God's pleasure to make him so. Man's physical body is a weak, breakable vessel into which God has imparted life. Into it, God gives life again and again and thus renders mortal man immortal. The poet is a mere reed which God designs into a flute. He is the instrument, though, through which God, the musician, plays new and melodious songs, carrying it over hills and valleys. When God places his hands on the poet, his his unlimited heart expands into unlimited bounds through joy and happiness, and from this is born inexpressible joy which becomes poetry. God's unlimited gifts are received by man's limited hands. Life after life, God continues to pour His blessings on man. God pours inspiration eternally. So now going to give a critical analysis of this poem. Tagore begins his song offering with a beautiful conceit of human life. The human soul is eternal, whereas his body is perishable and mortal. But God wills it so that man is in reality immortal. His mortality is an illusion. The reality is that God blows His Spirit into him and thus lives on even after, though the body may die again and again. God is the supreme creator who inspires eternally melodious music out of the frail instrument that is man. The limited and bound human heart expands into limitless joy, and thus poetry is created out of divine inspiration. Man is a frail vessel, a breakable being, and he is a little being. But he is endowed with an endless, everlasting life as God continues to pour his blessings on man. And God's gifts are in such bounty that it is never exhausted. So that's all about this poem. Yeah, this poem is based on the theme of divinity. It's a devotional song. So that's all about the first poem 1 of Gitanjali. Thank you.